Pat Brucki, All-American from Princeton, placed fourth in 2019. Pat, thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Hey, so I haven't seen you in a while. Things have been kind of on lockdown. I know that you were banged up at during the last season. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on during the COVID lockdown for you.
Yeah, I mean, Division One wrestling is just it's a meat grinder. Everybody's got injuries and everybody's banged up. I had my fair share, that's for sure. This last season, I had a lot of lower body issues. I've had knee issues in the past, and then hip issues primarily, just cartilage damage, wear and tear from years, and it was getting really bad, and I wasn't sleeping at night, wasn't able to walk upstairs too well, and it was really tough to strap up and try and compete when I was really struggling to just be a regular person, in my daily life. So had to get those things done. I had them scheduled for, I think, the day after the NCAA tournament. I had my first hip scheduled, and then COVID hit and we had to reschedule. I had to go back to Chicago, where I'm from, and find a new surgeon, kind of scramble for that. And then, at the end of the season, I had a injury in the Rutgers duel. I had my LCL and MCL just tore right in first 30 seconds or first minute of the match or something, and that was just some added adversity that makes things a little bit more difficult on you. So I was really just kind of pieced together at the end of the season, but then again, it's not an excuse because everybody is. So it was my responsibility to find a way to get through it. And this off season, I've had to really rehab a lot. I had two reconstructive hip surgeries. I've obviously had to be rehabbing my knees and everything to try and get through. I had a shoulder surgery at the start of last season, so this year seemed like almost a no-brainer to take some time off, work on the body, work on the mind, and just get healthy.
So a lot of guys who are really good athletes, being injured, especially severely or in a prolonged fashion, takes some wear and tear. Can you share some insights on just how you were dealing with all that emotionally?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, emotionally, at least in my case, it was more of an impact on the mental and emotional side than it was the physical. That pain is, I mean, pain's pain. I can deal with that. It's the ability to relax. It's the inability to relax, the inability to find rest, not being able to sleep, nerve pain. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the stuff where you cannot recover. You can't put your body in a comfortable position, and that's the stuff that weighs on you. It's really heavy, and then on top of that, compound that for 2 3 years, 2 3 Division One wrestling seasons, and then when things start to get really bad, trying to compete through that at the highest levels, it's difficult. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's really hard. And I was kind of feeling that this last year. Like I said, more mentally and emotionally. So fixing up those issues, and hopefully I can patch myself together and put together the rest of my career, and that'd be the ideal goal.
How do you feel right now? Like, are you done with surgery to your knowledge and just getting better?
Yeah, I think so. I'll down the road, I'm definitely gonna have to have a couple more um, hip operations and maybe replacements. So I'm hoping I can get through the end of my career before those happen. My shoulders, who knows how long we've got on those ones. I've already had two operations on the right one, but I feel good. I do feel good. Honestly, fixing my hips I should have done that years ago. Um, I should have listened to the signs earlier and gotten the help I needed before I kind of let things spiral a little bit. So I take responsibility for that, but it's night and day. Just the ability to relax, get good sleep at night. I didn't realize how bad it really was until I realized how good it could be. So I do feel good. I feel great, and I'm able to bend my body in ways that I haven't been able to do. I'm gaining strength in areas that I never really was able to be before because of there was bone in the way, and that bone's not there anymore. Or there was cartilage that was gone, and that cartilage is removed now. So I have abilities, flexibility, strength in areas that I never even had before. I feel more athletic for sure.
Well, that's good because I mean, you never really looked very strong while you were
I get that all the time. I know. It's like, what do you do?
crazy. Now, Coach Ayers had his hip done too. Did you guys do any commiserating? Did you ask him like why didn't you get his nose done at the same time? Or
The nose is next in line. That thing needs some help. But I don't know if they're gonna have to full replace that thing. But yeah, we were, we communicated throughout the whole process. His hip, he had a very similar issue where the cartilage was worn away, and mine, I've also got a fair amount of dysplasia, so it kind of complicates things, and surgical options are a little bit more tricky. So there was there's a threshold there, and whatever. But I'm hoping that, like he said, he would recommend a new hip to anybody because it changed his life, and
yeah.
I'm so happy for him there. So I'm hoping that someday I can get the same kind of relief.
I know Coach isn't listening. Coach, I was just kidding. If someone tells you, okay, I was just kidding. Now I know that your brother was he a resident athlete at the NJRTC?
Yes, yes, sir.
So, did he? Now, you're both competitive. I have never interviewed him, but I've talked to him a little bit. Matt's side, I think it was.
Yeah.
Did he gain any ground on you while you were banged up?
It's funny. I actually just hit the mat this morning for the first time in 6 months, and I got a little bit of a drill in, and
With him?
I was drilling with him, yeah, because he's home since the U.S. Open, and I don't think he's gained anything on me.
All right. All right. We will. Did you tell him that?
I think he knows.
You think he knows? Nice. Okay. Oh my! How much older is he than you?
He's 4 years.
And how much lighter is he than you?
Probably 10 pounds. I'm
10
about
pounds.
205 right now, and he usually fluctuates between 95 and 200.
Gotcha. So one thing I wanted to go back and ask was you're wrestling with you're banged up everywhere. What were your thoughts when NCAAs were canceled? Like, was it a relief? Was it disappointment? Like, where were you? It's got to be a mix of feelings.
Absolutely a mixed basket there. The hardest part is just the emotion of we just trained our butts off for 6, 7, 8 months, and we don't even get the opportunity to put that into fruition. So that's just a sheer heartbreak. And I really do feel for seniors, especially guys that all they wanted was their last opportunity. And that sucks, and I really do feel sympathetic and empathetic for those guys. In my own situation, to tell you the truth, I was really, really wasn't operating on my best level. So I'd be lying if I told you there wasn't a little bit of relief, because it was agony, it really was, and it was not good for my health. That being said, if I could go back and we had that tournament, I would put every single bit of me into it, and I would do my absolute best to win that national title. But just not having the opportunity, I think, hurt the worst, and having all that work that not only you as an individual, but you and your teammates, and you seeing your teammates, succeed and grow and getting their opportunity taken away too, that hurts as a teammate and as a person.
Yeah. I've heard a bunch of different things about eligibility. I think, I've heard that this year doesn't count, or, it counts, but not towards eligibility. And I've heard there's some talk of lawsuits for lost eligibility from last year.
Yeah.
You're in your senior year at Princeton on cyber school. Would you consider trying to pursue extra eligibility, or is that just a done point at this time?
I'd have to have a couple conversations
Yeah.
for sure with a couple coaching staffs, both Princeton and Michigan. and I have no idea. I haven't even thought of that. The biggest issue would be, my health. Whether or not I'm ready for that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, Coming off of two, reconstructive hip surgeries, that's a lot to put him under, right away. So I'm not sure if I would even be physically eligible to do that. That'd be my first concern, but I can't really speak to whether or not what's going to happen or anything. But um, I just feel bad for the guys that had their opportunity taken away last year, myself included. But I'm lucky enough that I'll have one more. And I mean, the fact that there's some guys that are going to have five chances, um, and some guys going to have three. There's a discrepancy there in my eyes. And if they really wanted to do the right thing, they had their shot and they didn't. Um, I don't know. I'm not sure morally what the right thing to do is. It's a really hard situation for everybody, and this is unprecedented time. But it doesn't seem fair to me to penalize some guys and give others a little bit extra to try and make up for that penalization.
Gotcha. One thing when you were talking about drilling with CJ, so were you actually drilling, or was there some wrestling?
No, it was drill. I mean, I'm still in a pretty I would say a pretty fragile state. I'm not I'm walking around. I'm able to do a lot of different things, but um, I'm easing back into things and making sure that I'm being safe and precautious in every way I can. So we're at that point in our relationship and our careers where we can kind of take the pride out of it and just kind of focus on getting better. A lot of it is more focusing on technique, what's working here, what's not. I saw him get hit with a couple things this weekend. We're working on a couple, technical aspects from his last tournament. So, and that helps him, that helps me. That's just good for us.
Gotcha. What do you think of cyber school?
Personally, I'm enjoying it. It's probably the best thing that could have happened for me. Personally, I'm in the middle of rehab. I'm rehabbing 3 to 5 times a week. I'm probably training twice a day, 3 times a week, once a day, three other times a week. So I'm very busy. I'm also working part time for an engineering firm as a civil and structural engineer's assistant. So it's been great. I mean, it really has been great. It's kind of hard being on your own, but at the same time, that's kind of holding me more accountable, and it's making me a better student. Obviously, there's some difficulties with it, but if you take it the right way, I think you really can gain some accountability out of it and hold yourself to a higher standard.
Do you guys have a mat in the house, or are you going somewhere to train?
We've got a garage mat. It's
Yeah.
a very crude setup, but that's all you need.
Yeah. So the plan is to graduate at the end of this academic year. You've already announced that you would like to go to Michigan. Can you
Yes, sir.
tell us a little bit about that decision?
Yeah. First off, I want to express how grateful I am for Princeton University and the wrestling program there. There's never any issues, between myself and that program. I have nothing but love and respect for those guys. Um, it came down to a matter of we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainties here. I couldn't necessarily be guaranteed a year back into the school if I would take this year off academically because of the academics of Princeton being kind of in question. So I couldn't get that guarantee. So instead, I just said, I'm having surgeries. I'm close to my surgeon when I'm at home. I'm close to my rehab when I'm at home. I have a system that works. I need to do what's best for me and just stay enrolled as a senior. And at that point, when I realized I needed to do that, it was okay. What do we do with my eligibility? And I have a ton of respect for Michigan athletics, and Sean Bourmet is kind of a family friend of mine. We had the same high school coach, and I think he's a phenomenal man. I think he's one of the guys you want in your life. So for me to get the opportunity to wrestle under him would be it would be a great pleasure. So I think that was the next best option for me for sure. If Princeton allowed me to compete as a graduate student, that'd be different, but they don't.
Yep.
So I kind of was forced to look at other options, and I hope they understand that, But I'm really happy with where we ended up. Michigan's fantastic. I'm just honored to be a small part of it.
So just so I heard that right, you left Princeton to get as far away from Joe Dubuque as possible.
That's
I'm kidding.
exactly how it
Um,
went.
were there any other schools in the running besides Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, I had my fair share of conversations with a lot of fantastic coaches, mostly in the Big Ten, and it was very difficult to choose between because obviously the prestige of these programs is speaks for itself. You know, these guys have accolades on accolades, and they would trump all of mine. But it's just it was a matter of splitting hairs, and finding that comfort. And I really, Sean Bormet, I think, is a great man, and that's what I care about most is being surrounded by, good men and people that I want to be around because their influence in my life brings me up, and that's what I had to look for in Michigan.
This is the second time you're kind of going through a recruiting process. How
Yeah,
much more different was it, or how much differently did you handle it?
it was interesting, and I'm super grateful to have the experience because I learned so much. To be honest, there's certain things that you see, you hear as a 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid, and you're like, it's like the eye candy, the ear candy. And now I've kind of been through that. I've been through the process of college wrestling. I know what it looks like on a high level, with a great program, and so I don't need as much of that eye candy, that ear candy. I like to know, hey, what's our training going to look like? You know what I mean? How am I going to get better? What's the day to day going to look like? That kind of stuff. So it was a lot of a no BS process, and the coaches that I was in conversation with totally understood that, and it was a fantastic opportunity for me as just a student of the game, of the sport, to learn about the ins and outs of different programs and just be a sponge, because I was really just trying to, in that whole process, put myself in the best environment. So, and the questions they were asking me was also helping me learn about myself and really advocate for the things I needed.
You're talking about you wanting to see different things this time around. If you could give yourself any advice as a going into your freshman year at school, what would you tell yourself?
Um, there's things that you sign up for sure. And going to an Ivy League school, I signed up for hard academics and the hardest Division I sport possible. And I got both of those things. Um, and I think I expected to get both of those things, and that's great. The things that are tough are the intangible difficulties that you don't necessarily sign up for, the added things that get added to the plate, and those are more nuisances than anything. So I would just say the patience, having patience in the process and knowing that you're going to get more than you wish for, you're going to get less than you wish for, but you're where you want to be, and that I think is an important aspect for young recruits to know is it's not as much about the nitpicky details about, yeah, but I could get this and this and this there. It's about finding the place where you feel the most comfortable because you're going to have adversity no matter where you're at, and you're going to be challenged no matter where you're at. So finding that fit and that comfort of like, I feel like I can be at home here, and I feel like I can be challenged here, and still respond well. I think that's more important than anything.
Gotcha. Um, what's your timeline like? So, will you do you have a goal of drilling for 6 weeks lightly, and then, I mean, like all things going well, when would you see yourself actually wrestling at a practice, not competing, but at a practice?
Uh, I would say I'm going to be on a pretty adjusted schedule, probably this whole year. So I don't know if I'm going to have any normal practices anymore. I'm going to have to I've had to take a lot of changes in my lifestyle, in my form, technique, everything, just to try and change the things that I've been doing wrong. So a normal practice, I have no idea. I couldn't
Yeah.
even tell you. I would say that I'll be drilling probably within a month, really drilling, instead of just nice and light motion.
Right.
And live wrestling, I don't know if I'll do any of it this year.
Okay.
I'll have to have that conversation with my new coaching staff and find whatever we're most comfortable with. Um, but I think probably by December, I'll be drilling at a comfortable rate and pushing a pace and getting back to where I'm clicking and firing all cylinders.
Gotcha. Now, Michigan's significantly closer for your parents to come watch you wrestle. Are you going to
Yeah.
split any of that travel money savings with them, or?
No, I think with the amount that they've invested in me over the years, I think they have every right to pocket all that.
Gotcha. Um, what you did mention is that adjusting some of your technique and position. Can you share some of that what you need to adjust to stay healthy?
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is as simple as making sure that I'm lifting with the posterior chain, instead of, using the big, strong muscles in your body
Yep.
instead of relying on the smaller ones, the more explosive ones like your calves or your quads. And I was a pretty quad dominant person.
Oh,
And so I never really used a lot of those big muscles, your butt, your glute, your hammies.
yep.
Um, and so that's been a lot of my rehab is reincorporating that form into my daily life. You pick something off the floor. Are you doing it right? Are you really using the right muscles? Because that stuff adds up. Um, Walking upstairs, making sure that I'm engaging the right muscles, engaging the core. Because those little habits do go a long way. And then in a wrestling sense, obviously, stance and motion is huge. I just started stance and motion this week, and so I'm focusing a lot on keeping a balanced stance where the weight isn't all on my toes and not relying completely on my quads, but I'm spreading the weight between, my bipedality, both feet, and I'm really balanced on my feet in a position that I'm strong and anchored with my glutes engaged, my hamstrings, and I mean, I've never felt so strong in my stance, honestly. So, I've been hammering the rehab is, squats, deadlifts, dead bugs, RDLs, just to try and
What's a dead bug? I've never heard of that.
dead bugs on your back. Your knees are up, your arms are up, and you start to engage your core as you extend your body out,
I see.
and it's really good for your core, your hip flexors, and then your low back.
Gotcha. How old were you when you started wrestling?
I think I was maybe like 7 years old. I think I was in second grade maybe, and then broke my arm that year, so I didn't come back the next year. And then I came back a year later, and I just kind of went all the way through from there.
What are you now? 21? 22?
21 years old.
21 years old. Having gone through all these injuries and having gone through your middle school, high school, college career, do you still feel the same way about wrestling? Has it changed?
There's a new appreciation for sure. There's different aspects of the sport that you learn to appreciate. There's different aspects of the sport that you gain insight into. And there's some people that would their experiences in the sport is so much greater than mine that mine don't even compare. And that's great. Um, for me, where I'm at in the sport now is it really is. It's a game. It's a sport, and I'm learning about it. I've had the last 6 months of my life to be a student of the game as opposed to being in the grind, pushing through in one perspective, in the competitive perspective, focusing on my next workout. Now I've kind of got a new experience where I've focused on the sport as a whole, and the approach, the mental side of it. And I think it's a really cool opportunity. So I think the perspectives of the sport have definitely changed for me because I'm able to see it now in a more maybe mature way that I was earlier, where when I first was getting into college, I was like, I just want to train, 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 beat my body down because that's what I thought I needed. And, a couple surgeries later, you find out that's not always what you need. Sometimes you need to be smarter.
Gotcha. Like growing that mustache.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
Everybody needs a good mustache in their life.
Um, what is the most painful move anybody's ever put you in?
Most painful move? I don't know. I would say, bow and arrow. I'm not a very bendy guy. I'm not a very, I don't know if you ever seen me, but I'm not, I'm not,
Are you
I'm
kidding me?
not
I've
very,
taken you down. I've seen you a lot. What are you talking about?
I forgot about that one
Who
time.
who
You
put you
put
in
me
a
on
bow and arrow? Who put you in a bow and arrow?
that. I had a partner last year, Kevin Parker.
Oh,
He was our 74 partner. He
he's
he had a hell of a bow and arrow.
he's
Uh,
lanky too. He can reach all over the place.
Very lanky. Yep. But I mean, over the years, I have no idea. I mean, I've been put on my head so many times. I've been, choked out in practice, blacked out. Who knows? I mean, phew. Downey's choked me out a couple times for sure. Um,
Were you
he-
wrestling, or you?
oh yeah,
It was wrestling, and he choked you out.
it's wrestling. Yeah, it's wrestling's never really wrestling with Pat Downey.
It's
It's a
always a
controlled
fight.
fight. So, and I love that, and we love that. So, and it made both of us better for a long time. So, we had that going for us. Nate Jackson, you catch a double leg to the face, right off his skull. That's never a fun one. Broken nose here, split eyelid here. That kind of stuff happens.
What would your teammates say is the most annoying thing about you?
Most annoying thing about me. Ah, honestly, it might be my taste in music.
Really? Which is?
I can't even tell you. It's whatever I'm feeling that day. It's so sporadic, and sometimes it's Fleetwood Mac, sometimes it's Katy Perry. You never know what you're gonna get.
Wow.
So I would say maybe that inconsistency, but it's not a hardcore thing. I'll take anything. Whatever's bumping. That's
Yeah.
what I'm listening to.
I've never heard bumpin' and Fleetwood Mac in adjacent sentences, but that's beside me. Okay,
Fleetwood Mac, man, they've got it. They've got it. I've really grown to appreciate them.
gotcha. Is there anybody that you don't like wrestling?
Anybody I don't like wrestling?
Yeah,
Plenty of people. I mean, I hate wrestling my brother. He's because our styles are such a clash.
yeah,
He's like wrestling a wet noodle. So he's so fluid. He moves his head very lucidly. Um, Whereas I'm more of a let me get my hands on you so I can squeeze you to death sort of person.
right.
So anytime those styles clash, that sucks. Easy answer would be, Ben Darmstadt, that kind of person who's tall, lanky, noodly. On paper that kid has nothing on me. Even you look at both of us, and you're like, who's the athlete? But then again, who's got whose number? You never really know.
Yeah.
I mean, in this case, we do know until I see him again. But yeah, I mean, I think styles make everything. They really do.
Bringing up Darmstadt, what's your mindset when you're wrestling somebody where the outcome is in serious doubt?
I don't know. I think honestly, in my career, I've made a lot of mistakes in situations like that. I look at my match with Jaden Cox. I look at my match with Bo Nickel. That was the only time where I've really had doubt, and that's frustrating because instead of being more patient, and even when I've wrestled Colin Moore, instead of being more patient and sticking to my game plan and just being me, I tend to rush things because I'm so like I'm not going to let this guy do anything. I'm gonna go after him. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I'm not scared of this. I'm going to go after him. And so that's when I start taking bad shots because I'm like, I'm not doing enough. I want to work hard. I want to push through this. And I get sloppy because I push in. I hand fight too fast forward, and I expose myself. I take bad shots. I give up go behinds, and that's not from fear. That's from me being over eager. I'm too excited. I'm ready to get my hands on this guy
Yeah.
and I just want to get after him, and I don't have the patience to take your time, Pat. Set this shot up, pull him before you push him.
Yeah.
Those sort of things. And I think that's really what makes the best people is the ability to reel themselves back in sometimes. And I think those are the mistakes that I make against those high level matches. Is I get too impatient, I rush things, and you give up sloppy takedowns or sloppy scores, and that happens to a lot of different people.
Gotcha. Do you watch much wrestling?
I do. The last 6 months I've watched a ton. I'm gonna plug my laptop real quick. I've watched a ton of wrestling.
Who do you like to watch?
I would say somebody who I watch a lot of is David Taylor. I think he's transitioned his style of wrestling, in my opinion, better than anybody. Once they've gotten to senior level, I just in college he was a lanky, incredibly athlete, rider, very, very athletic on his feet. Not that he's not now, but since he's hit the senior level, he's transitioned so well to a hand fighter, so well to an upper level wrestler, because the wrestling is easier up there. That's, I think, how he puts it, and maybe he's right. He's faster, he's quicker, he has higher level technique, and he applies it so well at that weight class. So I really enjoy watching him.
Have you ever rolled around with him?
What's that?
Have you ever rolled around with him?
I have rolled around with him one time in my life. When I was a senior in high school, he came in. He's actually, I've kind of got a connection to him. So his wife is Jimmy Kennedy's sister.
Yep.
And I'm good friends with Jimmy Kennedy. And he was in town one time for his, I don't know if it might have been his engagement party or something, but so he came and wrestled at Sandburg, which is my high school. So and that was in Orland Park, Illinois.
Gotcha.
So there's that connection, but I don't know David very well or anything, but we had the opportunity to roll around one time, and again, I did the exact same thing. Anytime I have that opportunity to get my hands on somebody like that, I just want to pick them up and take them down, and take them off their feet. So on that particular day, I actually got my hands on him. I was in on a double right away, and I planted him. I planted him like right on his head, right on his back. And then I gutted him twice. And then he beat the piss out of me for, I think, 20 minutes right after that.
That's always the best.
I did score on. I scored on, and he'll tell you that, if you ever get the chance to talk to him. But that's something I wouldn't necessarily be proud of, because in the grand scheme, he took it to me that day.
This is, while I'm laughing at that story, I was going to ask you this to open things up, but it just slipped my mind. Do you ever listen to much wrestling media out there? In particular, really. Are you familiar with Ben Askren?
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. Yeah, I don't tune into podcasts as much as some people.
Yeah, I don't listen to him very often, but I've had two friends ask me he keeps mispronouncing your name. And I was just curious, do you have a relationship with him to reach out to him?
Not really.
Pat's a really simple name to pronounce, but he just can't seem to get it right. I don't know.
He can't pronounce my first name?
No,
Pat?
I'm kidding. It's your last name. It's your last name.
No, honestly, I don't even know how to pronounce my last name. Is it Brucki? Is it Brucki? Is it Brucki? I don't know. I to be honest, I really don't care. It's just an honor to hear him say my name, for sure. So that's pretty sweet to hear, my name coming out of his mouth. But I know we had the opportunity to wrestle Beat the Streets together, and that was about it. We might have chatted briefly there, but I've never had the opportunity to really talk with him.
Gotcha. We already talked about what your former teammates would think is the most annoying thing about you, but any parting shots? Do you want to call anybody out? And it's a rich group of characters over there.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to think. I've got a long list of guys.
No one's going to listen to this. What is it?
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to see. What's pretty funny though? If you can get Matt Kolazik's playlist that he puts on the aux, that kid has got some music taste that, if you think mine is bad, you got to hear his. He's got some interesting things going in between the ears. Some days it's classical, and I'm like, how is anybody wrestling to classical? You know what I mean? Some days it's like a lo-fi, kind of beat hip hop. I don't know. But yeah, I would say there's plenty. I got plenty of material regarding music. Everybody's got a different taste, and whoever's on aux is, subject to criticism.
What about? Can you give me any junk on the guy I always confuse you with that you share this first name with, Pat Glory?
Yeah, he and I are. We look pretty similar from behind, so I can see how you get confused. But Glory is man. That kid, I do have some dirt on him, man. He is interesting. That kid's he's a high energy kid. He's a really high energy kid for sure. Sometimes he just you'll just catch him screaming at himself in the mirror just because he needed to do it. No explanation. He just needed to fire himself up for practice,
He
and
deserved it, huh? Okay.
he deserved it. Yeah, and hey, I mean that's part of the reason why he's so good, why he's going to be a national champion someday, and that's part of the reason why he's making and taking Princeton wrestling to the highest they've ever been.
All right. How about Coach Gray or Coach Cram? Anything on them?
Coach Gray, Coach Cram. Actually, those two get along very well, despite their differences in styles and everything. They're pretty tight. They're frequently rolling with each other during our pre-matches. At the end of our pre-matches, giving each other rub downs. And I know Gray might or might not have broken Coach Jackson's ribs with a gut wrench one time.
Okay.
This was again after pre-match, and Nate. I mean, I think Nate just loves wrestling him because Gray's got he's only this big, but he's a massive guy. He's so strong.
It's almost square. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. He's built like a cube. So I think Nate has a fun time, experimenting with that kind of style.
All right, back to you a little bit. All right, you're going to graduate with structural engineering?
Structural engineering.
And then you're going to go to grad school for?
Construction engineering and management.
And what are you going to be doing in 10 years?
In 10 years, I am hoping to be working for a company that I enjoy and working for a company that enjoys me and takes care of me and my family. Living in a small but modest house and coaching wrestling somewhere, getting on the mat 3-4 times a week, keeping that in my life. It's a huge part of my life. It's a huge passion of mine. But transitioning to be, a good father someday. That's my life goal.
So you see yourself coaching, gainfully employed, family man. Are you going to be in the Midwest?
I'm not sure yet. I'm leaning towards it, just because it's home, and my experiences have led me to appreciate home, and that's all it is. Absolutely nothing against the East Coast or anything like that, and I have no idea what the future holds.
Dude, one thing we didn't get you to do is throw New Jersey under the bus. I'm kidding.
There's nothing to throw under the bus, other than it's an armpit.
Tell me a little bit, like if you were to compare and contrast Illinois and New Jersey. Most people think they're urban. Most people consider them both East Coast, even though they're not.
I would say the pizza is 100% better in Chicago, and that's a pretty unbiased opinion. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm pretty unbiased. And Princeton, New Jersey is a very small sample size. So you gotta think it's a upper middle class area. It's a very small, representation of the East Coast. So you got to keep that in mind. The culture is very different. When somebody says they've got that Midwest culture and that family attitude, that's real. That's very real. So that's probably the biggest thing that I noticed going out there, and then spending some time in New York or Pennsylvania, especially New Jersey. There's just a subtle difference between how people operate their daily lives, and how they communicate with you. And a lot of it is just, it's great, because differences aren't necessarily better or worse. It's just different, and those are the things that you should celebrate instead of knocking on, so I would never knock on it. But people have preferences, and that's how life goes.
Did you steal the USA event parking sign behind you?
Yeah, I think so.
It was just sort of left out outside, and you just sort of liberated it?
Yeah, I might have found it on the ground or something like that. But that was probably from maybe universities, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with Pat Brucki fans, Princeton fans, future Michigan fans, Illinois fans?
I mean, there's probably only about 5 people out there that would tune into this if they know I'm on it. So I'd like to say thank you, Mom, Dad, my grandparents, and maybe my brother. So those are the 5 right there. But thank you for having me. I appreciate you giving me the soapbox to spew a little bit of crap at you. And it's always my pleasure. If there's anything I can do, please let me know.
Oh, I'm going to miss seeing you this year. And next time I see you, I'm going to be healed up. You're going to be healed up. I
Yep.
may be retired at that point, but I'm still going to F you up, man.
There's never a bad time to come out of retirement and put me on my head.
All right. I appreciate the time, Pat. And I'll be checking in with you, making sure you're still on track to get back on the map.
Yep. Please do, man. Please do. Keep me accountable.
Okay, we'll do. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.